traveling. We gonna talk about a little traveling gold, like I like to say. I don't know, you see it, there's a windshield wiper there. We sitting in the motor home here, and good reason for that. We gonna talk about a little bit of motor home traveling, but of course we gonna talk about this here gold. And y'all know, those who watch the channel, several of y'all said where you been, what have you. Well, for those that didn't know, we had a little, I called him a mustard seed. Well, when he's a baby, when he's a little bit, when he's in her belly, I said he's a mustard seed, right? But he out the belly now, so I reckon we got to call him a sprout. So we got the little mustard sprout. Maybe he'll grow up, be a big tree or something. But that kind of led to this all. And last few videos, I've been talking about selling gold, selling silver, and because of course having a baby, that's an expense. And then we bought this here motor home. And I figured I'd just come live from the motor home. I'll give you a little view outside there. Looky there. Can't see too well. I'd get her focused. Y'all see we got some trees. There's the lake over there. So anyway, we've been traveling about 2,000 miles. So it's hard to shoot you a video while you're driving. So I don't reckon the police officers much like that. Probably the driver next to you wouldn't like you either when you swerve over at him talking on YouTube. But anyway, so that's what going on. But one thing I want to say is, you know, I've been selling off some gold, but I still got a little bit. We got this here, the 10th ounces. Well, I combined them, 10th ounces and quarter ounces. Or 10th ounce, quarter ounce. And here's a neat little thing. I like this. Looky here. This little part here, roll back. We can keep our gold treasure right there, right? So I got a few little more. Of course, that and that silver, that's that Hoffman. I was able to hold on to, more or less, I was able to hold on to my favorite ones. And we got the double eagles, the walking eagle, and of course the St. Gaudens original double eagle. Get her focus up here. So we got our flock of eagles and a little bit of a herd of buffaloes. The proof buffalo, I was able to hold him. I did get rid of I got rid of, I think, one buffalo, and I don't know, I got rid of a maple leaf, and I think turned loose of a Britannia, my older Britannia. But I kept this here with the wavy waves. I like that one. So I got rid of the old Britannia that had the straight radial lines, kind of. So we kept a few things, and but that ain't what we're gonna talk about. We done talked about selling gold a bit. Of course, we're gonna talk about it a little bit more, but more or less, I'm gonna talk about trying to make trade with the gold, cause this here motor home, that's what we in. When the boy come along, cause we travel a lot, and pretty much full time on the road, so we had a little Class C, and it's all right for me and the missus. And even while she's pregnant, it's a little strain. We had the little bed in the corner. She had to shimmer her out. That's kind of hard when you're pregnant. Sometimes I had to push her out of bed, but we got through it, because that's what we had to do. So with saving for the boy when the boy come along, right? So we bear down, and I thought, well, we gonna keep this. He's just a little feller. He can't take much room, right? So I figured, well, year or two we'd get us something else. But come along, and for a little feller, he take up a lot of room. I don't know, y'all probably those that had him. I thought, well, little feller, he gonna be pretty small. We could put him over in the corner somewhere, and he'd be all right. But come to find out, he got a lot of stuff with him. I don't know, y'all ever heard that book about when you give the mouse a cookie? I ain't a real educated feller. Literature ain't, my strong suit maybe, but that's a highfalutin book, right? You give the mouse a cookie. That's the one them. I think they said it's a children's book. I like it because it got pictures. I ain't got the pictures to show you, but more or less you said if you give the mouse a cookie, he gonna want milk to go with her, and then he gonna want to read a book and all this other stuff, and he gonna take a lot of stuff. So point of that is, sometimes you get one thing and you got to get 10 other to support it. So that's kind of what happened with the little feller. Little feller kind of come along and changed all kind of things up, and we knew it would, but some things we didn't know. So yeah, anyway, we decided, well, we got to get a little bigger RV. So that was number one. Well, probably number two, because number one was, of course, when you have a little feller, doctor wants his money, and so we're paying him, and then of course, like I said, now you got to have a bigger house, put all his stuff in, because for a little feller, he got a lot of clothes. Them little fellers, they go through it a lot. I thought, he's a little feller, 5 or 10 clothes ought to be all right. We'd wash them. They just one load of clothes, you'd wash all of them. But that feller, he changed 3 or 4 times a day, because it's maybe he spit up or he peed all over himself. Kind of like a drunk. Them little babies kind of like drunks. They just lay around and they drink too much and pass out, and then they pee all over themselves. So anyway, but that, if y'all got babies, you know how that is. They might poop all over it too. Look like mustard. So that's why I said, yep, he's a little mustard. He got a little mustard seed in his diaper there. Kind of looked like mustard to me, but I don't much want that on my biscuits. No, I ain't gonna have that. No, buddy. Anyway, but so we bought this here RV, and actually I had me selected out 10 coins. I was gonna trade off for it if the feller'd make the trade, and that's what we're gonna talk about, kind of horse trading. Of course, we're not talking about horses, but gold trading. And my attempt, I tried it 3 times and kind of failed every time. But it was a good experience. It's worth trying anyway, because I was trying to use our savings, so rather than sell anything to the coin shop and they gonna give you where I was at right then. Best I found, 96% a spot, and that's why I didn't get rid of them buffaloes, because they giving you 96% whether you get a Britannia or Buffalo or Eagle or any other one. Krugerrand, I got rid of my Krugerrand, the big one anyhow. So anyway, I picked out 10 of them coins, and that's a little bit under his ask price. He's asking $39. I figured 10 coins at the time, that's about $35. And of course, it's a dealership. It might have went a little bit better if it'd been private, but it's a little mom and pop dealership. And I say mom and pop, I reckon it's father and sons, because it's the son I'm dealing with. And I looked at this here RV. It's an older one, but it's a Class A, pretty nice one for a 20-year-old. It's 20 years old, 2005. Of course, I'm a little bit older, so you appreciate a little bit older stuff when you get a little older. I just say it's a classic. That's what I say I am. I'm a classic. I ain't old, I'm just a classic now. And I say they built them better back then. And I really believe that on this here diesel. That's back before the DEF and all that. But so I kind of wanted a little bit older one anyway, before 2008 or so. That's kind of the good year for them if they've been upkept. So it had a little work to do, so I knew I had a little work to do on it. But so I offered him, he wanting 39. I said, well, it got a few little things gonna have to be fixed. How about, would you take 10 gold coins? Because he's wearing a gold chain, mind you. He had all this gold chain and gold watch. I said, well, I see you like gold, right? Mm-hmm. And he said, yeah, I like gold. I said, you probably know what gold's worth. Would you be interested in a little gold? And I made that offer just to see what he'd do, and if it had took it, we'd have did it. But he had to call his daddy, and his daddy said, well, he said, what's he got? And I told him I wasn't offering my Eagles or Buffaloes. I was had the Krugerrand. I think I had me a couple of these Britannias, a couple Maples, stuff like that. And his daddy asked, he said, well, does he got that $20 gold piece? And I got that, but I wasn't offering that one. And I said, well, that ain't the $20. It's somewhere else here. Oh, right there. I said, well, yeah, but that ain't on the offer. But what I got's these here. I did tell him, I said, well, I can get you some Eagles and Buffaloes, American gold, if that's what you want. I'd have offered them instead of the Britannias and stuff, but he really wanted that. He said, well, he wanted that $20 gold piece. The daddy's older feller, so I reckon he knew about that $20 gold piece more than the rest of them. He wanted him a $20 gold piece, but like I said, I only had this one, and that wasn't part of my offer. And what he said, well, I'd have to see. I told him how much gold is worth. That day is like 34. And he said, well, I'd probably have to get it for less than that, because we'd probably sell it here, figure out some place to sell it. And so we'd have to make a little bit on it. And I told him, I said, well, if we're going to do all that, then I just sell it to the coin shop. I can get, if I'm going to take a loss on it, then I'll just give you cash. But anyway, so that was kind of a fail, but what it did do for me is I was able to make an offer. And he didn't take my 35. We wound up haggling a bit, and he come off it a little bit because it got a little roof damage. Not really roof damage, but just being 20 years right there at the side where that radius meets the side on this one. It's here to Monaco, and they pretty common for them pop rivets start popping out, and you gotta screw it back in. And I didn't have time to do it, and figured it gonna cost me about $2,000. So he come off $900, and I needed to get in this one, so we made the deal there. I probably ought to haggled a little bit more with him. I'm not the best at all that haggling stuff, and he's a used car salesman basically, so he kind of, I'd rather buy a private individual. I think it'd be better, probably got a better deal. But anyway, so that's the first time I trading gold for goods, if you will. And like I said, didn't work out that way. In fact, I didn't wind up selling them 10 pieces of gold. Otherwise, I'd have a little bit less here. But I wound up holding on to the gold, and I come up with the money some other way, since I had a couple days to come up with it. But the advantage the gold gave me is I had it. I knew I had it. Had I not been able to get the money somewhere else, I'd have sold 10 pieces of gold and we'd have made the deal. So that's gonna be my first point. Sometimes the gold, it's they talk about the gold back. Well, here's how I like to have my gold back. And I'd like to have my gold back, the ones I sold, but I like to kind of back up a little bit of my other stuff with gold. A little bit of your stocks or your cash, And I really should have held more cash, knowing that the boy's coming along. But I'm hesitant to hold much cash right now, so I didn't. Plus, I kept finding things like this that I wanted to buy. And that's the last few purchases, and these here double eagles and things like this here, Walking Liberty. Not just bullion, I mean it is, but it kind of come along and I couldn't pass her up, right? So I wound up spending a little bit of the cash I'd intended to set on. So that's why we're a little bit cash poor. But anyway, so point being on that, it worked out all right that the gold piggy bank, I didn't break it because I found the cash somewhere else. And I think that was better at the time, because I didn't lose my 4% on it, right? Because you're going to get 96% a spot. So I did it a different way on that. But again, we go back to giving the mouse a cookie. Well, we got this new, I say new, it's 20-year-old, new to me, diesel motorhome pusher. And it can tow a lot more than that Class C. Plus, we dragging a little two-wheel drive, front-wheel drive car around, a little Ford Escape. And I've been wanting four-wheel drive. Sometime I like to get off the pavement. So we've been wanting something we could flat tow. If you don't know, when you drag a two-wheel drive, you got to put her on one of them little tow dollies. Rent her from U-Haul, or you can buy them. I just rent it from U-Haul. Or you got to put it on a trailer. You can't just drag her down the road on its wheels. You burn up the transmission or what have you. Ain't designed for that. So be able to tow one just kind of with one of them tow bars, just flat on its wheels. You got to have one you can put in the neutral, disengage your what you call it, your drive shaft, your differential, what have you. I don't know all the term, but you disengage your drive part of it so you ain't turning it. So being with looking, I'd been looking on Facebook for motorhomes and for cars for towing. Popped up one car for sale. It's I think a 2014 little Jeep Cherokee, little SUV, about what we had, about a little bit smaller SUV than that Escape, but it's already set up for towing. So we got to looking at that, and that banker feller, I did a little video about that, kind of, if you want to watch the previous video. But that banker feller, he's selling, he's a rich feller. And here's a little tip for you. Of course, a lot of y'all probably know better than I do, but if you're gonna buy a vehicle or something, don't buy it from a poor feller, because he probably, feller like me, probably feller like you, just a working feller, probably used it all the good out of it. But you buy it from them rich fellers, they like to replace their stuff when it's still good. So he had 3 or 4 cars. That's the wife's car, and he done replaced it, and nothing just sitting there. So, me or you, we probably got to sell the one and then come up with another one, or maybe you might trade it in. But this feller, he had him a couple Jeeps and one of them dualies and all kind of cars. He said, well, we don't need all these cars. This is just sitting here and paying insurance on it, so we thought we'd sell it. See, like that, he didn't even really need the money, right? But he wanted to save him money on the insurance because he's a smart feller. And so he was selling that little Jeep set up for towing, and he had a good offer on it. And I had me some cash by that time ready for my repairs I'm gonna have to make on this one. Well, opportunity come up to buy this here car, and I felt like it's a good opportunity because it's a good price. And when we got to looking at that car, it's in really good shape. You'd think it's probably like 2 to 4 years old, even though it's 11 years old. So I think that time I don't remember, maybe we'll just say maybe a Britannia or something. I might have even took an Eagle. I don't know, because I was kind of wanting to make that deal with the fella, so I think I might have took me an Eagle. I had me about $5,000 and had me 1 ounce of gold. And he's asking just shy of $10,000, $9,975, call it $10,000. So I had me $5,000 in this here ounce of gold, or one just like it or something like it. And I took it when we went to test drive her up. And when we got there at the place, wife's with me, little mustard, what'd I call him? Not a mustard seed anymore, I was gonna say mustard twig, but no, little mustard sprout. Anyway, little boy, we had the family with us. And I figured maybe he'd give me a little sympathy. I got the family there. But also, I gotta let the missus look at it. If she ain't happy with it, we ain't gonna buy it, because she got a ride in it. And the little feller, we gotta put that car seat, make sure everything fits right. So we got there, and when we looked at that car, took her little test drive. It drive real good cold air. It's a nicer ride than our previous one. So the wife, she really liked it, of course, that how it is. And she said, well, maybe we're a little bit shy on what we offering him, because I figure up gold that day's $3,300, so I had $5,000, and 33 makes $3,300. That's $8,300. So I'm offering him about $1,700 under his asking price. So when we talked about it, we said, I told her, I already bought this. This is what I got. And really, we got a lot more stuff to buy, because we still got to repair that at their motorhome. So I'd like to get it for that $8,300. And I said, but I agree with you. It's probably worth what he's asking for it anyhow. So we kind of talked about it, and we said, if he went up to $9,000, we'd make that deal. She said, I got some savings you can use. And I said, I appreciate it. We'll see what we can do. So when we got back there, we talked a little bit, a little chit chat. And he talked about the family and this and that. We talked about he had 5 kids. And I wasn't trying to just chit chat to get a better deal, although it wouldn't hurt. But it's really a good little conversation. It just kind of, he's an older fella, retired banker, like I said. But, you know, a lot of people kind of think bankers are mean or something like that, just greedy. But that wasn't my experience with this feller. He's a nice feller. And in fact, I talked to him this morning, a little something else, and he said hi to family and all that. So he pretty good feller. But when we talked, got down to business towards the end, they said, well, what you think? I said, well, we like it a lot. Wife, she really likes it. And it's a lot better than what we got right now. It got good air, and that got the air in the back. That Ford, it only had the air up front, so it's a little bit hot for the boy. I said, well, we really like it, but you know, I got some expenses upcoming, and that ain't your problem or nothing like that. But anyways, I got what I got, and I said, well, here's what I got. I had me one of them little lock boxes, you know, like you keep something that you maybe want to protect yourself with. And I had that little Hornady box, but I kept the protection out of it. I figured I ought not open it up with one of them, scare him or something. He's a Californian. I figured that'd scare him off, but so I kept the little black thing out of the picture. But I opened it up. I kind of trying to show, you know, I could have said, well, here's what I got, $8,000, $8,300. But I wanted to show cash and a little bit of gold. Had that, so I had the 5,000 and put that ounce of gold right on top there. And it's a stack of cash because it's 50s and 20s, so it looked like a lot of money. But I told him what it was. I said, well, that's 5,000 in cash, and I don't know how you feel about gold, but that's an ounce of gold, and you probably know about gold, being you in the banking and all. And I said, well, today gold is about 3,300. Of course, if you buy it from the coin shop, they're going to charge you a bit more. And you go sell it to the coin shop, you're going to get a little bit less. And he said, yeah, gold's had a good run, ain't it? And of course, he's a lot smarter than me, and he ain't a country boy, so he ain't said ain't it. But he put it in his words, I'll put it in mine. But anyway, and he said, well, I don't really, he said, and I don't know why he said this. I don't know. I guess being a banker, he trusts the cash more than the gold. I don't know if he's worried about a counterfeit or if he just worried about gold dropping in price. So he said, well, I don't want to take the risk of the gold, but if I did the deal, I'd take the cash. But he said, well, I said, well, that's what I'll get you the cash, and we'll just call it 8,300. So that's my offer, 8,300. And he thought about it there for a minute. I could tell the gears were turning. You know, I'm kind of like that when you're thinking, you can see it on my face. So I seen it. I said, yeah, he's thinking about it. We let him think. He thought on it a second there. He pretty quick thinker. I appreciate it. He pretty quick on his feet like that. Me, it might took me a few minutes to ponder it, but he come back pretty quick. He said, well, I really want to get more than that. And he didn't say it just that way, but that kind of is kind of the way I took it. He said, I really need to get more than that. And he thought a second more, and then he said, well, how about 8,700? And like I said, me and the wife, we had took a test drive, and he wasn't with us, so we had our little private conversation like you done privy to about that 9,000. Of course, I kept that to us, that we'd offer that. And so when he said that, I kind of looked at her and we kind of shook our head, and I said, yep, we'll do it. And he said, I said, well, you want the cash, right? Not the gold. Yep. I said, well, give me a little bit of time. This kind of in the morning time. I said, give me a little bit. I'd probably get it by this evening. If not this evening, I get it to you first thing in the morning. I don't know how quick I get the cash, but I try. I have it by the morning anyhow. I got to sell this here gold, and then I gotta come up with the other money, but we'll figure it out. So that's what we did. I ran up to Coin's shop right after. Wife said, let's go, let's get it. She's excited. She want that car. So I ran up to the Coin shop. One, I knew he's the best price before. And on my ride over, it's about 35 minutes, 40 minutes. On my ride over, I called 3 or 4 other coin shops. And they all a little bit under, like they wanting 95, 94% a spot. And I knew this feller, he'd offered 96 last time. So I went up there, like I said, gold was, I think it's 33 and maybe 33.15 or something. And I was figuring on a little bit less, but when I got up there, he offered 32. So it's about 32.25. There's about 100 back a spot. And I reckon that somewhere, I don't know, I ain't calculated right now, but it's around 96.5%, so about 3.5 back a spot, 3.5 or 4. But I need the cash, so I said, yep, I'll take her. So I took that cash, and then we had to come up with another $500. So we moved a little money here and there, and we was able to make that buy. So that's number 2. That's the second time I tried to trade a little gold for something we needed, something we wanted. And again, it didn't quite work out where to trade the gold, but there again, if I didn't have the gold, I'd have needed to come up with, I had to come up with 5 extra, so I'd have had to come up with nearly $4,000. Sometimes it's hard to come up with $4,000 on short notice like that. So having the gold helped us out. So that's number 2. And it was a good experience, that one there. He wasn't a used car salesman. He treated real fair. In fact, his price was more than fair already. And he gave us a pretty good discount. So then he gave the boy a little gift. So that banker feller, he really impressed me. He's a right square feller. But that's number 2. I told you I had 3 of these here stories. So the final story, it's more not trading for goods, but I guess you'd say services. Like I said, I had some repairs due on this here RV. I figured I had about $2,000 already to do, and then I want to do a little preventative maintenance. And there's a whole nother story about this whole thing, but we keep that and out of this. And if y'all want to hear more of that story about that feller doing this roof, we can, but that's just a little bit rant. But it's in California, and them fellers kind of pricey out there. And so I got there, and come to find out, do all the work I want to do, it's about $6,000. And I ain't got $6,000 anymore right then, because we've been spending money like Congress. And so I still had some gold. I think I had $3,000 in cash, maybe $2,000, but I can get my hand on another 1,000 or so. So, no, matter of fact, I didn't have much cash at all. I had 2 ounces of gold, what I had. So what I did on that one, I when we talked, that fella done told me he don't take check or card or nothing. No, he's strictly cash. I figure he's a little bit under the table, but that's between him and old Uncle Sam. So since he wanted cash, I figured, well, maybe he's into gold. So I hit him up. I said, hey, I know you like cash, and I can get you cash if that's what you want, what you got to have, but I got some gold. I got 2 ounces. That'd be a little bit more than your 6,000. That'd be 6,600 about. Would you be interested in 1 or both ounce of gold? Maybe 1 ounce of gold and the cash for the rest. And now he is a little bit more receptive than the rest. He kind of pondered it. He said, well, I have taken gold. In fact, a year or so ago, a couple years, something like that, he said I traded off a 1 ounce gold bar for some work, about $1,800 worth of work, and he said that worked out pretty good for me, because of course gold. So he knew gold on up there. He said I like silver. I'm more into silver, but I will trade off sometime for a little gold. And he said, let me think on it and look at the price, spot price, and the premium, all that recently. And let me think on it, and I'll let you know. I might take me 1 ounce. So he thought about it, and he texted me back, I think, and he said, well, I think I'll just take the cash. He said, I guess he's feeling it's a little bit too high. And honestly, I was a little bit kind of that feeling, but not exactly. And really depends on if you're going to hold on to it for a bit. So anyway, he decided on the cash, and I did me a little short video where I traded off. I didn't show the coin shop, but I showed the two ounces gold, and walked in the coin shop. I went to a different coin shop that time, and coin shop I generally go to. I really like dealing with the feller, but when I'd called him up on the phone, he's offering like 94%, so I'd avoided him last time I sold the gold and went to the higher price one. But this time I went to that feller, and actually I think I got pretty much the same, about 96.5% a spot, about 3.5 back. Might have been 97, because he gave me more than I was expecting, and when he offered that, but that's one little tip I tell you, it's good to call around, but if you got a good, maybe been buying a lot from the coin shop, I don't know, they might give you an extra 0.5%, maybe 1%, if you go in and they recognize your face, because maybe they don't recognize you on the phone, but when they see you and you hem-haw around a little bit, joke a little bit, you might get a little bit, 1% or 0.5% over what they'd give just a random person, because they know you probably come back and buy from them later, and they've been making money off you, so they kind of split the difference with you. Maybe they ought to. I think they ought to. If you've been a good customer, give a little bit of loyalty, kind of little loyalty points, right? So if you got a good coin guy and you're loyal and he's good, I think it goes both ways. That loyalty ought to go both ways. You've been a good customer to him. He ought to give you a little break every now and again. And so it's nice. So that's something you might, of course, I think it's good to call around. You can kind of get what they giving to the general public, but maybe if you feel like they didn't really know it's you, you might try going into one of them that you've been dealing with. So that's one. But anyway, I traded off my 2 ounces of gold. I think I wound up with I wound up with about 3,700, I think, or something like that. I think he gave me, I think it's about, well, no, I wound up about 3,500 because they gave that day. It's up a little bit. I don't know, 33.50, and he gave me 32.50, something like that. So I got, again, 100 under spot. Wasn't bad, about what the other feller did. So he is closer to me. I went ahead and did that, and took the feller his money, his $6,000, and pocket $500 for a little bit of pocket money. And of course, then we traveled 2,000 miles, and I might have to sell 1 more ounce of gold, because that diesel fuel's up there, especially in California. You know, buddy, yep, diesel fuel in California nearly $5 a gallon. I think I paid $4.80, $4.90. It's up there. So that's a pretty penny. Travel 2,000 miles, and now generally diesel is a little bit better fuel mileage, but when you pushing a big heavy thing, towing your car, going up and down the mountains and such, some of them times I get about 5 mile to gallon on them hills. Of course, when I got out east a little bit where it flattened out, even up around 7, 8, maybe 9 miles per gallon. That's about best you do. Of course, I don't know, I reckon that's all right. 20-year-old diesel pulling a little car, and we got a lot of junk piled up in here, so it's probably right near its weight limit. So anyway, so that's another $2,000 nearly travel across the country. So it ain't cheap fuel. If I go back the other way, I sure am gonna fuel up before I get to California. Try to avoid fueling in there, because it dropped off the price when we went there, Arizona and all that. That price come down as we come east. So I'm glad to get back east a bit. Cheaper fuel, cheaper groceries. So that's our third experience. Again, it kind of fell on really trading the gold, but we used the gold. And then I called up ahead before I come out here, because I'm kind of out in the country, as you see. Close coin shop is about an hour away. And I called that little coin shop because I figured, well, he's in a little bitty city. Not really a city at all, kind of a little town. He might be a lot less than them fellers out in California in the big city. And I called this feller, and he said, yeah, I'm doing about 96%. He said, well, I said, it matter whether you got a Buffalo or foreign gold. He said, well, I'm about 96% on about anything, but you come in, I might get a little bit better on, we see what the wholesaler doing. I might can do a little bit better on the Buffalo or something. And he said, of course, it depends on the day. You just have to come in, but today I'm about 96% on just generic gold coin. So I said, well, I hold on to my gold because I was going to sell something off in California, but I just keep her. And if I need to sell her here, I'll sell her here. So I know this has been a long video, but I wanted to get a little catch up, let y'all know I still got a little gold. We got most of the few of these here. Still got most of my slab stuff, most of my pre-33. We still got that. I ain't gonna break it all out, but yeah, we got the slab there. You can see a little case there. And of course, I kept my tenths. I pretty much kept my fractional because I feel like, well, one, you pay a little bit more for fractional, and then you don't get your premium back. So I ain't gonna sell it to the coin shop. And if I went to sell it to an individual, I'd probably sell it a little easier. So that's a little story about how we failed to trade gold for goods and services 3 times, but I still figure it's good to have the gold, because it might not have been an even trade, but it was still good savings. And that's a little update on where we at. Of course, I ain't telling the exact location. You might want to come get you some gold. So I figure all my listeners probably pretty honest, but you never know who's gonna just turn up on YouTube. Might be the government. They might say, Mustard, we gonna get some of that gold. Nah, they get it anyhow. They get it right out of my paycheck. They get it before I got it. So I ain't got to worry about them waiting to take it from my gold. They take it from my right out of the top. They take more than the Lord does. That's the shame of it. But anyway, we leave that for another topic. So I'd say that's a little video, but that's a long video here, but I appreciate it if you watched to here. If you watched to this point, give me a little comment. I'm kind of curious who stuck in here to the last. And if you didn't, you ain't hearing none of this, so you won't know nothing about it. So I'm curious, just if you stuck in here, just comment last, because everybody doing the first, I want to know who the last is. But yeah, I appreciate it, and I appreciate all the well wishing and wishing that the well, whatever you say. I'm kind of tangling my words, but all the appreciation, all the hoping well for the birth and all that, and congratulations. I appreciate all that, and I miss doing these videos. I miss all y'all. I ain't been watching a lot of videos. I ain't been doing a lot because I've been too busy, but we gonna get back at it. So I did you a long one, this one probably too long, but anyway, that's the long video. All right then, bye bye.